Welcome to Sleepy Nature Facts. In 1997, hydrophones deep in the Pacific Ocean picked up a sound. It was the loudest sound any ocean microphone had ever recorded. It was heard from 5,000 kilometers away, and based on its pattern, scientists calculated that whatever made it had to be larger than any known animal on Earth. They called it the bloop. For over a decade, nobody could explain what it was. That mystery is not the strangest thing we are going to talk about tonight. It is not even close. Because somewhere in the Pacific Ocean right now, there is a whale that has been alone for longer than you have been alive. Scientists first heard it in 1989. It calls at 52 hertz, a frequency no other whale on Earth uses. Every other whale call drops between 15 and 25 hertz. This one is alone on its own frequency, has been tracked for over 30 years, has never once been seen with another whale, and no one knows why it sounds the way it does, or whether it has ever, in its entire life, been heard by one of its own kind. They call it the loneliest whale in the world. And it is still out there tonight, right now, somewhere in the dark water, calling on a frequency built for an audience of one. There is more. In 1938, a fisherman pulled up a strange blue-grey fish off the coast of South Africa. Scientists looked at it and felt something close to disbelief, because this fish was supposed to be extinct. Not rare, not endangered, extinct. For 65 million years, gone before the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. A living fossil had just been hauled out of the ocean on a fishing line, and it had apparently been swimming down there, unnoticed, the entire time. And somewhere below all of this, below the lonely whale, below the living fossil, below the depth where the bloop was recorded, there is a place so deep that sunlight has never reached it. Not dim light, not twilight. No light has ever touched this place since the earth was formed, and it is not empty. There are creatures down there that make their own light in the absolute dark. There are fish with transparent heads, so their eyes can rotate freely inside their own skulls. There's a trench so deep that if Mount Everest were placed at the bottom of it, its peak would still sit more than 2 kilometers underwater. We have mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we have mapped our own ocean floor. Tonight, we are going down there, all the way down, past the loneliest whale, past the living fossil, past the last trace of sunlight, down through water that grows colder and darker and heavier until we reach the very bottom of the world, the deepest point on this entire planet. And we are going to find out slowly, patiently, exactly what is waiting for us there. You do not need to stay awake for any of it. In fact, the deeper we go, the more I hope you don't. So get comfortable. Let your body settle. The water above us is still warm, and the light is still golden, and the ocean has not yet shown us anything strange at all. But it's down there. It's always been down there. And tonight, we go and see it for ourselves. Let us begin where every journey into the ocean must begin. Not in the depths, not yet, but here at the surface, where light still moves freely and the water still remembers the warmth of the sun. Look outward if you can toward any open stretch of sea, and you are looking at something that covers far more of this planet than the ground beneath your own feet ever will. 71% of the Earth's surface lies beneath water. We call this planet Earth, and yet, by any honest measure of geography, it would be more accurate to call it ocean. Land is the exception here. Water is the rule. And of that vast ocean, the part we are standing at the edge of right now, this thin, bright, sunlit skin stretched across the top of the sea, is, in truth, only the smallest possible fraction of what lies beneath it. If the entire ocean, from surface to sea floor, were compressed into a single day, the sunlit layer we are about to explore would last only the first few minutes of morning. Everything else, the entire rest of that day, hour after hour after hour, would unfold in darkness.
But we are not rushing past this layer, not tonight, because before we descend into the dark, it is worth resting here a while, in the warmth, and understanding exactly what kind of world we are about to leave behind. Sunlight, when it touches the surface of the ocean, does not simply pass through unchanged. Water bends light, scatters it, and slowly, steadily consumes it. Some of that light reflects immediately off the surface, scattering back into the sky in the bright glare you might recognize from any sunlit afternoon at the shore. But a great deal of it continues downward, penetrating the water, traveling through molecule after molecule of seawater, losing a little more of itself with every meter it travels. This is the beginning of a transformation that will occupy a great deal of our journey tonight. The slow, patient disappearance of light as we move deeper into the sea. For now, though, here at the surface, light is abundant. It is in this narrow band, generally the uppermost 200 meters of ocean, though the exact boundary shifts slightly depending on the clarity of the water, that something extraordinary is taking place. It is here, and essentially nowhere else in the ocean, that photosynthesis is possible at all. Floating throughout these sunlit waters are organisms so small that a single drop of seawater might contain thousands of them, and yet, together, they perform one of the most important functions of any living things on this planet. They are called phytoplankton, and despite their almost unimaginable smallness, they are responsible for producing somewhere between 50 and 80% of all the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. Let that settle for a moment. Every second breath you have ever taken, in and then out, in and then out, across your entire life, very likely owes its existence to organisms so small that none of them, individually, could ever be seen by the naked eye. They drift, unnoticed, through the sunlit surface of the sea, converting light into oxygen, with no awareness of the vast debt every breathing creature on land owes to their quiet, continuous work. This is the foundation the entire ocean is built upon, because where there is phytoplankton, there are creatures that feed upon it. Tiny, drifting animals called zooplankton graze upon the phytoplankton, the way cattle graze upon a field. And feeding upon the zooplankton are small fish, and feeding upon the small fish are larger fish. And so the great chain of the ocean's food web extends outward and upward, layer after layer, almost all of it, in the end, tracing back to this one narrow band of sunlit water and the impossibly small organisms living within it. It is in this same sunlit layer that we find some of the largest animals to have ever existed on this planet. Larger, in fact, than any dinosaur whose bones have ever been recovered from the Earth. The blue whale, reaching lengths of up to 30 meters and weighing as much as 190 tons, feeds almost exclusively on tiny shrimp-like creatures called krill, filtering enormous volumes of water through plates in its mouth called baleen, capturing thousands of these small creatures with every pass. There is something worth sitting with in this. The largest animal in the history of life on Earth survives by eating some of the smallest. Scale in the ocean does not always behave the way our instincts expect it to. As we move through these sunlit waters tonight, we will encounter creatures whose entire lives play out within this narrow, luminous band. Sea turtles rising for breath before diving again toward feeding grounds below. Schools of fish moving in great shimmering formations that shift and turn as a single living shape. Dolphins surfacing in slow, rolling arcs before disappearing once more beneath the waves. But even here, in this brightest and most familiar part of the ocean, something is already beginning to happen each night that hints at the strangeness waiting for us in the depths below. As the sun sets and darkness settles over the surface, an extraordinary event takes place beneath the waves. One that scientists consider the largest migration on the entire planet. Larger than any movement of wildebeest across an open plain. Larger than any flight of birds across a continent. Each evening, as light fades, billions upon billions of small creatures, fish, squid, jellyfish, tiny crustaceans, begin rising upward from the darker waters below, ascending toward the surface under the cover of night to feed in relative safety. And then, as dawn approaches and light begins to return, they sink back downward again, retreating into deeper water, where the darkness offers protection from predators that hunt by sight. This happens every single night. It has happened every single night for longer than human beings have existed to witness it. An entire ocean, breathing in a slow, vast nightly rhythm, rising and falling and rising again, largely unseen, largely unknown, until relatively recent advances in sonar technology revealed what was actually happening in the water beneath passing ships. This nightly migration is our first true glimpse of the deep ocean, reaching upward into the world we know. It is a reminder that the boundary between the sunlit world and the dark world below is not as solid as it might first appear. The two are connected intimately by these vast nightly movements of life. And so, here, at the very beginning of our descent, you can already sense it. The pull of the darkness below, patient and vast, drawing the life of the surface downward each night. The way sleep itself draws the mind downward, gently, away from the bright and busy surface of waking thought. We will follow that same downward pull tonight. Not yet, not all at once. The light here is still warm. The water still carries traces of the sun's heat near its surface. And the creatures we have met so far still belong, for the most part, to a world not so very different from the open air above it. But the descent has already begun. Even as we rest here, in this golden sunlit layer, the ocean below us continues its slow work, deepening, cooling, darkening, drop by drop, meter by meter, carrying us steadily toward a place where sunlight will mean nothing at all, where creatures make their own light to survive, and where the loneliest whale in the world is, even now, calling out into water no other whale will ever answer. We are not there yet, but we are going. Rest here a while longer in the warmth. The deep can wait a little longer for us. It has been waiting a very long time already. Let us go a little deeper now, not far, only a few meters at first, past the place where waves break and scatter, past the bright churning surface where light and air and water all blur together into one restless motion. Here, just below that motion, the ocean begins to settle into something calmer, something steadier. This is the beginning of what scientists call the epipelagic zone, though you will not need to remember that word. It simply means the sunlit zone, the layer of ocean where light still reaches, still moves, still shapes the lives of everything swimming within it. We will spend our time here, in this layer, from about 10 meters down to 200. It sounds like a small distance. In the context of an ocean that reaches, in places, 11 kilometers deep, 200 meters is barely the first page of a very long book. And yet, within these first 200 meters lives the overwhelming majority of everything we think of when we imagine the sea. Nearly every fish you have ever eaten, nearly every dolphin, every sea turtle, every coral reef, every shark fin slicing along the surface in old films. This narrow band of sunlit water is, in a very real sense, the ocean most people will ever know. So let us know it well before we leave it behind. The first thing you notice, descending here, is the light itself and how strange it becomes the deeper you travel. At the surface, sunlight is white, every color held together, the way it has always looked to you on any ordinary afternoon. But water is a thief, and a very particular one. It does not take light away all at once. It takes it color by color, patiently, in a specific and unchanging order. Red disappears first. By around 5 meters down, true red light has already vanished almost entirely, absorbed by the water above it. This is why a wound that would look bright crimson in open air looks strange and muted underwater, almost grey-green. The red simply no longer present in the light available to show it. Orange follows red, fading by perhaps 15 or 20 meters. Yellow lingers a little longer, but by 30 meters, it too has mostly gone. Green persists further still, and blue. Blue survives longest of all, traveling deeper into the water than any other color the human eye can perceive. Which is why, if you have ever looked down into clear, deep water, you have seen that particular, endless blue that seems to have no bottom at all. By the time we reach 200 meters, even blue will have grown faint and gray, and true color, as you understand it, will have left us almost entirely. But we are not there yet. Here, in the upper reaches of the sunlit zone, color is still rich, still vivid, still doing the quiet work it has always done, allowing creatures to see, to hide, to signal to one another, to hunt and be hunted by sight, rather than by any of the stranger senses we will encounter further down. And it is here, suspended in this fading but still present light, that we find the foundation of almost the entire ocean. They are called phytoplankton, and they are so small that you could fit thousands of them inside a single drop of seawater and still have room left over. They are, for the most part, single-celled organisms, plant-like in function if not always in shape, drifting wherever the currents carry them, doing one thing endlessly, patiently, for as long as the sunlight allows, converting light into living matter. It is difficult to overstate what this means. Scientists estimate that phytoplankton are responsible for producing somewhere between 50 and 80% of all the oxygen in the entire atmosphere of this planet. Not half of ocean oxygen, half of all of it. The half you breathe right now, lying wherever you are lying, comes substantially from organisms too small to see, drifting through sunlit water, asking nothing, simply existing. There is something worth resting on in that thought. Every breath has a history, and much of that history begins here, in the upper sunlit layer of the sea, in the quiet work of the smallest living things on Earth. Where there is this much phytoplankton, there is, inevitably, something to eat it. And so the sunlit zone is also home to zooplankton, tiny drifting animals, some no larger than a grain of sand, others as large as a human hand, grazing on the phytoplankton the way vast unseen herds might graze on an endless invisible meadow. Among them drift the larvae of crabs, of fish, of jellyfish not yet grown into the shapes we would recognize. Tiny, transparent, fragile things, beginning their lives suspended in sunlight at the very base of one of the largest food webs that has ever existed, and feeding on the zooplankton. In turn, come the small fish. And feeding on the small fish, the larger ones. Sardines moving in great silver schools that bend and turn as a single living shape. Thousands of individual bodies reacting as one, the whole school flashing silver, and then dark and then silver again, as the light catches each turning side. Mackerel, herring, anchovies, so numerous in places that early sailors described entire patches of ocean appearing to boil with their movement. It is in this same sunlit water, that we find some of the largest predators the sea has ever produced, hunting the smaller fish that hunt the zooplankton that graze upon the phytoplankton. Here swim the great hunters most familiar to us, the tuna, built like living torpedoes, capable of sustained speed that few other ocean creatures can match. Here too, the sharks move through these upper waters, the great whites and the tiger sharks, following scent and motion through the fading colors of the sunlit sea. And here, perhaps more remarkably than any of these, swims the largest animal that has ever lived on Earth, larger than any dinosaur whose bones have been recovered from any quarry or any desert floor. The blue whale, stretching to lengths of 30 meters, weighing as much as 190 tons, moves through these waters feeding almost entirely on krill, small, shrimp-like creatures barely larger than a human finger. A single blue whale may consume up to 4 tons of krill in a single day. To do this, it does not hunt the way a shark hunts. It opens its enormous mouth, lunges through a dense swarm of krill, takes in a volume of water that can exceed its own body weight, and then, using rows of comb-like baleen plates instead of teeth, filters the water back out, trapping the tiny krill inside. The largest animal on the planet survives entirely by eating some of the smallest. There is a kind of quiet lesson held inside that fact, if you let it settle. Scale does not always mean what we assume it means. Vastness and smallness are not opposites here, they are partners. The blue whale could not exist without the krill. The krill could not exist without the zooplankton it shares these waters with. None of it could exist without the phytoplankton, smaller still, drifting in the sunlight at the very top of it all. As we move slowly through this layer tonight, we pass sea turtles rising in long, unhurried arcs toward the surface, breaking through to draw a breath of air before turning gracefully back down into the blue. We pass dolphins moving in loose, easy groups, surfacing and diving in a rhythm so practiced it looks almost like breathing itself. We pass, here and there, the pale drifting shapes of jellyfish, pulsing slowly forward with no apparent effort, carried as much by current as by any choice of their own. This is, in many ways, the ocean at its most familiar, the ocean of documentaries and postcards. The ocean most people imagine when they hear the word at all. But even here, in this brightest and busiest layer, something happens each night that hints at the much stranger world waiting below us. As the sun sets and the light begins to fade from the surface, an event takes place beneath the waves that scientists consider to be the single largest migration of living things on the entire planet. Larger than any movement of wildebeest across the plains of Africa, larger than any seasonal flight of birds across a continent. Each evening, under the cover of darkness, billions upon billions of small creatures begin rising upward from the deeper, darker water beneath us. Tiny fish, squid, jellyfish, small crustaceans by the uncountable trillion, all of them ascending together, drawn upward into the sunlit zone to feed in the relative safety that darkness provides, away from the predators that hunt by sight during daylight hours. And then, as the first hint of dawn begins to lighten the water above, they sink back down again, retreating into the deeper layers where darkness will protect them through the long day ahead. This happens every single night. It has happened every single night for longer than there have been human eyes to notice it. An entire ocean, breathing in a slow and ancient rhythm, rising and falling, largely unseen until sonar technology revealed, almost by accident, that something vast was moving beneath the surface each evening. A false seafloor, ship's instruments once called it. A layer so dense with living creatures that early sonar operators mistook it for solid ground. It was not solid ground, it was simply life rising to meet the night. This nightly migration is our first true signal that the sunlit world we have been resting in is not separate from the dark world below it. The two are connected, intimately, by this vast and patient movement, by creatures willing to cross the boundary between light and darkness twice every single day, drawn upward by hunger and downward again by the need for safety. And so, even here, in the warmest and brightest layer of the entire ocean, you can sense it already, the quiet pull of the depths below, patient and unhurried, the way the pull of sleep itself begins to gather at the edges of a tired mind, gentle at first, and then, slowly, impossible to resist. The light is still rich around us. The water still holds its blue, its green, its fading traces of gold near the surface above. The whales are still singing somewhere in this sunlit water, and the krill are still drifting in their billions, and the great schools of fish are still turning, silver and dark and silver again, in the last of the day's light. But the colors are already beginning to fade as we hold here, suspended 200 meters from the surface. Red disappeared long ago. Orange and yellow followed. Soon even the blue will begin to thin, growing pale, growing grey, growing quiet. We are at the very edge of the sunlit zone now. Beyond this point, the light begins to fail in earnest. Rest a moment longer here, in this last familiar colour. The twilight is waiting just below us. We have crossed 200 meters now. You may not have felt it happen. There was no line drawn through the water, no border marked by current or temperature alone. And yet something has changed around us, gradually, the way evening settles over a landscape. Not in a single moment, but in a long, slow withdrawal, until you look up and realize, almost with surprise, that the sky you remember from an hour ago no longer exists. This is the mesopelagic zone. The word means, simply, the middle layer of open water. But you will not need the word at all tonight. What matters is what it feels like to be here. It feels like the very last hour before true night. The hour when color begins to lose its meaning, when shapes become suggestions rather than certainties, when the eye strains instinctively to hold on to a brightness that is already leaving. At 200 meters, the light around us is a deep, heavy blue. The kind of blue that no longer resembles daylight at all, but rather some memory of daylight, filtered and thinned and carried this far down, only because blue, of all the colors, refuses to give up easily. By 400 meters, that blue has darkened further still, pressing in from every direction with a weight that feels less like color and more like dusk itself, suspended permanently around us. By 600 meters, sunlight has become something closer to a rumor. A few wavelengths persist, technically present, registering faintly on the most sensitive instruments. But to any eye, human or otherwise, the difference between this light and no light at all has become almost impossible to measure. And by 1,000 meters, it will be gone. Not dim, not faint, gone entirely, permanently. For the rest of the descent that lies ahead of us tonight, we are not there yet. We have a little further to travel through this long, slow twilight first, and there is no need to rush through it. This is one of the gentlest, most peaceful layers of the entire ocean, and it deserves to be felt slowly, the way the last light of any evening deserves to be watched rather than hurried past. The first thing you notice here, beyond the changing light, is the silence. Above us, in the sunlit zone, there was always some trace of the surface world remaining. The distant hush of waves, the occasional disturbance of a passing boat, the restless motion of water still influenced, even faintly, by wind and weather far above. Here that connection has been severed. The surface might as well not exist. The water around us has settled into a stillness so complete that it feels less like an absence of sound and more like a presence of its own, a deep, wide, patient quiet that has been here, undisturbed, for longer than any of us can easily imagine. The temperature, too, has shifted. Where the sunlit zone held some last warmth from the sun, however thin, this layer has cooled into something steadier and colder, a temperature that will not change much from here for a very long time. as if the ocean itself has settled into its true and constant nature, free now from the sun's daily influence. And the pressure has grown immense. At this depth, the water above us presses down with a force that would be unbearable to an unprotected body. And yet here, in this layer, life has simply adapted around it, the way it adapts around everything. Pressure, to the creatures who live here, is not an obstacle. It is simply how the world has always felt. It is into this heavy, cooling, silent blue that we now meet our first true resident of the deep. It is called the hatchetfish, and it carries one of the most elegant solutions to a very particular problem that this twilight world presents to anything trying to survive within it. Imagine for a moment that you are a small fish, suspended in this fading blue light, with predators below you looking upward and other predators above you looking downward. Looking upward, a predator sees your silhouette outlined sharply against whatever faint light remains above. Looking downward, a predator might see the gleam of your scales catching what little brightness still reaches this depth. The hatchetfish solves both problems at once. Its body has been compressed over a very long evolutionary time into an impossibly thin, blade-like shape, so flat from side to side that, viewed directly from below, it presents almost no profile at all, a silhouette so narrow it nearly disappears. Along its underside, rows of tiny light-producing organs glow with a faint, carefully calibrated light of their own, matching, almost exactly, the dim blue glow filtering down from the surface far above. A predator looking upward sees not a fish, but simply more of the same pale light it would see anyway. And its flanks, meanwhile, are covered in fine, mirror-like scales, polished and silvery, reflecting whatever faint light reaches them from above, so that, viewed from the side, the hatchetfish becomes a kind of living mirror, blending seamlessly into the blue around it. It is not hiding, exactly. It is closer to vanishing. Drifting somewhere nearby, slower and stranger still, is a creature that challenges the very idea of what a single living thing is supposed to be. It is called a siphonophore, and at first glance, it might be mistaken for some pale, trailing thread of light, suspended motionless in the water, stretching down and down into the dark below it. Some siphonophores, in fact, can grow longer than the blue whale we left behind in the sunlit world above us, longer than any single animal on this earth, despite weighing only a fraction as much. But a siphonophore is not really one animal at all. It is a colony, thousands of small, specialized individuals called zooids, each one genetically identical, each one performing a single specific task, joined together so completely that the colony moves and feeds and survives as though it were one continuous organism. Some zooids are responsible only for propulsion, others only for capturing prey, others only for reproduction. None of them could survive alone, separated from the others, and yet together, joined in this long, drifting, ghostly chain, they form something that has thrived in these waters for longer than most of the more familiar shapes of life we recognize on land. It drifts now, somewhere just beyond the reach of our sight, trailing its long, stinging tendrils through the blue, patient and silent, waiting for the small creatures of this twilight world to brush, unknowingly, against it. And it is here, in this fading light, surrounded by creatures built for vanishing and creatures built from thousands of smaller selves, that we encounter, for the first time tonight, something that will follow us for the rest of our journey into the dark. Light, not sunlight, a different kind of light entirely. As the sun above us continues to fade with every meter we descend, something else begins quietly to take its place. Scattered throughout this twilight water are small, soft points of glow, not bright, not dramatic, but present, blinking gently in the deep blue, like the first few stars appearing in a clearing evening sky. This is bioluminescence, the ability of a living creature to produce its own light. through a quiet chemical reaction occurring within its own body. We will meet it again and again as we travel deeper tonight, in forms stranger and more elaborate than anything in this twilight layer. But here, in its gentlest and most familiar form, it belongs to a small, unassuming fish known as the lanternfish. The lanternfish is not large, and it is not at first glance especially remarkable. But along its sides and belly, in careful, evenly spaced rows, sit small organs called photophores, tiny structures capable of producing a soft, steady glow. Each species of lanternfish carries its own particular pattern of these lights, as distinct and recognizable to other lanternfish as a face might be to us. Some use this light to recognize others of their own kind in the darkness. Some use it, much like the hatchetfish, to blur their silhouette against the faint light from above. Some, it is believed, use it simply to keep their place within a school, a gentle, glowing signal passed between bodies moving together through the dark. Lanternfish are, by some estimates, among the most numerous vertebrates on the entire planet. There may be more lanternfish, by sheer biomass, than almost any other group of fish in all the world's oceans, drifting largely unseen, glowing softly, scattered through this twilight layer, in numbers too vast to easily comprehend. There is something worth resting on in this. Faced with the slow disappearance of the sun, life here did not retreat. It did not give up on light altogether. It simply learned, patiently, over millions of years, to make its own. We continue our descent now, slowly, through water growing darker with every passing moment. 700 meters, 800. The last traces of blue have grown so faint that they seem less like color and more like memory. The way a once bright room might seem, recalled long afterward, its true brightness already softened and uncertain in the mind. 900 meters. Here, even the most sensitive instruments can detect only the barest whisper of sunlight, a presence so faint it can no longer meaningfully be called light at all. The hatchetfish have grown sparse around us now, their mirrored flanks finding less and less to reflect. The lanternfish continue their soft, patient glowing, small constellations scattered through a blue that has nearly surrendered entirely to black. We are close now to 1,000 meters, close to the boundary where this long, gentle twilight finally gives way to something else entirely. A darkness so complete, so permanent, that it will remain unbroken by any trace of the sun for the rest of our journey tonight, and for every night and every day that has ever passed in this place, all the way back to whenever this ocean first began to fill the wide, deep basin it now calls home. The last hint of blue is fading even as we rest here. Soon, there will be nothing left of it at all, only the dark. And whatever small, patient lights the creatures of that dark have learned, slowly, to carry with them. We have reached 1,000 meters. There is no light here, not faint light, not the memory of light, or some thinned and distant suggestion of it, the way we carried the last traces of blue with us through the final stretch of the twilight zone above. Here, there is simply none. If you were to hold your hand directly in front of your own eyes at this depth, you would not see it. Not as a shadow, not as an outline. There is nothing for your eye to gather, nothing for it to work with at all. This is the mesopelagic zone's end and the bathypelagic zone's beginning. Though, as before, the names matter far less than the feeling of crossing into them. What matters is this: the sun, which has guided every layer of our journey so far, no longer has any relevance to this place whatsoever. It might as well not exist. It might as well never have existed at all. Welcome to the Midnight Zone. It stretches from here, at 1,000 meters, all the way down to 4,000. A vast, dark column of water, 3 times as tall as the entire layer we have just descended through. Whatever warmth and color and familiarity the surface world once offered has been left so far above us, now that it belongs to a different kind of existence entirely. one that feels, from this depth, not so much distant as simply irrelevant. The way a dream from several nights ago feels irrelevant by morning, still technically part of your history, but no longer capable of making any particular claim on the present moment. The pressure at this depth, pressing inward from every direction with a force more than 100 times greater than the air pressure of the ordinary world above the surface, is not experienced here as something to be endured or resisted, but simply as the fundamental texture of existence. The way the creatures of this zone are filled with it, shaped around it, their cells and tissues, and the very chemistry of their bodies calibrated for precisely this weight, so that it is not a burden they carry, but simply the medium through which they have always moved and always will. And yet, this crushing, lightless, freezing world is not empty. It has never been empty. It is, in fact, one of the largest habitats on the entire planet by sheer volume, and it is alive, quietly, patiently, in ways that took human beings an extraordinarily long time to even begin to understand. Because here is the strange and wonderful truth waiting for us in this darkness. Deprived entirely of sunlight, life here did not vanish. It did not give up on light as a concept altogether. It simply took the matter into its own hands, generation after countless generation, until something extraordinary became commonplace in these depths. Scientists who have studied this layer carefully now estimate that as many as 90% of all creatures living in the midnight zone are capable of producing their own light. Not most, not many, the overwhelming majority. This is bioluminescence in its truest and most essential form, no longer the gentle accent we glimpsed in the lanternfish above us, but the dominant language of an entire ecosystem. Down here, light is not borrowed from a fading sun. It is made, fresh, from within the bodies of the creatures who need it, through quiet chemical reactions occurring in specialized cells, producing a soft, cold glow that costs almost nothing in terms of heat, and yet means almost everything in terms of survival. Think for a moment about what light becomes in a world with no other light at all. On the surface, sunlight is simply given, abundant, constant, asked for by no one. Here, in the midnight zone, every photon a creature produces is a choice, a message, a tool shaped with extraordinary precision for a single purpose. Some creatures use their light to find a mate in a darkness so complete that any other form of recognition would be impossible. Some use it to lure prey closer, dangling a small glow like a lantern in a window, patient and still, waiting for something curious to approach. Some use it as a sudden, startling flash to confuse a predator, buying just enough time to disappear into the surrounding black. And some use it simply to break up their own outline, scattering small points of light across their bodies so that, even here, even in total darkness, they cannot be seen clearly enough to be caught. There is something worth resting on in this. Rather than retreating from the absence of sunlight, as though it were a deprivation, the creatures of this depth simply proceeded with the quiet, unhurried work of building an alternative, producing their own cold, soft, chemical light from within their own bodies, generation after patient generation refining the process until bioluminescence became not a remarkable exception in this dark world, but its most ordinary and widespread feature, the thing that the midnight zone does with the same ease and naturalness that the sunlit surface world does photosynthesis. Let us meet some of those who speak it. Drifting somewhere ahead of us in the dark, motionless waiting, is a creature whose reputation has in many ways outgrown its actual size. It is called the anglerfish, and you have likely seen some imagined version of it before, a creature defined in the popular imagination by menace and shadow. The truth, when you slow down enough to really look at it, is something gentler and stranger than that. The anglerfish is, for the most part, small. Many species no larger than a clenched fist. What sets it apart is a single, slender filament that extends from just above its head, trailing forward like a fishing line cast out into the dark, tipped with a small, glowing lure produced by colonies of bioluminescent bacteria living in a symbiotic relationship within the fish's own body. The anglerfish has arrived at the most patient strategy this ocean has ever produced, suspending itself in the absolute dark with a stillness so complete that the water immediately around it barely registers its presence at all, simply holding its single glowing lure out into the surrounding black and allowing the dark to work on its behalf, trusting that in a world where any light at all is a rare and irresistible thing, curiosity will eventually do what pursuit never could. There is something almost meditative in this strategy. No pursuit, no urgency, only patience, and a single small point of light held out into the dark like an offering for as long as it takes. Further into the darkness around us swims another resident of this depth, one whose most striking feature lies not in how it shines, but in how it hides. The deep-sea dragonfish carries rows of small photophores along its body, much like the lanternfish above, producing soft points of light along its slender, elongated form. But its most remarkable adaptation is found inside its mouth. Its teeth, long, narrow, needle-like, are almost entirely transparent. Even when its jaws are open, even at extremely close range, there is little for a passing creature's eye to catch. No glint, no reflection, nothing to suggest danger until it is already far too late. In a world where light no longer arrives from any external source, but must instead be produced, carefully and deliberately, by the living body itself, transparency becomes the most complete form of disappearance available, because there is nothing for the eye to catch, nothing for attention to snag on. And so the dragonfish moves through the absolute dark in a state of near-perfect invisibility that no surface creature, however cleverly colored or patterned, has ever quite managed to achieve. It is worth pausing here, in this deep and patient dark, to consider something rather remarkable about how recently we came to know any of this at all. For nearly the entire span of human history, this layer of the ocean was entirely unknown to us. Not mysterious exactly, because mystery requires at least the awareness that something exists to be curious about. This was simply absent from human understanding altogether, an entire world, vast beyond easy measure, existing in total darkness directly beneath ships that had crossed these same waters for thousands of years. It was only with the development of deep-diving submersibles, vessels built to withstand the crushing pressure of these depths, that human eyes finally looked directly into the midnight zone for the first time. And what those first observers found, illuminated suddenly by artificial light, in a place that had never known any light at all, was almost overwhelming in its strangeness. Creatures with bodies built for a darkness so complete that some had lost their eyes altogether, others with eyes grown enormous, straining to capture every last possible photon, and scattered throughout all of it, small, soft, glowing points of light, blinking on and off in the black, like a slow and patient conversation that had been happening, quietly, for millions of years before anyone arrived to listen in. We continue our descent now, deeper into this layer, past 1,200 meters, past 1,500. The cold here has settled into something steady and unchanging, a temperature that will remain almost exactly the same for the rest of our journey through the midnight zone and the layers beyond it. The pressure continues to build, slow and relentless, though down here, among creatures built for exactly this world, it is simply how things have always been. Around us, scattered through the absolute black, small lights continue to appear and fade. A brief glow here, a slow pulse there, a sudden flash followed by stillness. Each one a message, each one a choice, each one a small, deliberate act of communication in a world that offers no other way to be seen or to see. We are deep within the midnight zone now, and we will remain here a while longer, resting among these patient, glowing creatures, before continuing further still into the darker layers that lie below. There is no need to hurry. Down here, nothing hurries. The anglerfish will wait as long as it needs to. The dragonfish will drift, slow and unseen, through water that has not changed in longer than memory can hold. And somewhere nearby, a small soft light blinks once and fades and blinks again. Patient, steady, alone in the dark, the way it always has been, and the way it always will be, long after we have moved on, deeper still, into the quiet world below. We rest now at 2,000 meters, deep within the heart of the midnight zone, and here for a while, we will not hurry forward at all. This chapter belongs entirely to the creatures themselves. We will not measure pressure or chart depth or trace the slow disappearance of color, as we did in the layers above. We have already learned what this darkness is. Now it is simply time to sit within it, quietly, and meet the ones who call it home. Not quickly, not in passing, but the way you might meet an old and patient friend, with time enough to truly look and truly listen, and let each one settle fully into the mind before moving on to the next. There is no rush here. There has never been any rush here. 2,000 meters below the surface, time moves differently than it does in the bright, busy world above. Some of the creatures we are about to meet may live for decades without ever encountering another of their own kind. Some may go years between meals. In a world this dark, this cold, this vast and empty and quiet, patience is not simply a virtue, it is the only way to survive at all. Let us begin with one of the strangest and gentlest creatures in this entire ocean. It drifts ahead of us now, suspended in the black, moving with a slow, unhurried grace that seems almost deliberate in its calm. Its body is a deep, velvety red, though down here, in the total absence of light, red is the one color that vanishes first and most completely, which means that to any predator relying on sight, this creature is, in effect, invisible simply by being the color it is. Webbing connects its arms, draping between them like a dark cloak, giving it, when fully extended, an appearance that long ago earned it a rather dramatic name. It is called the vampire squid, though the name tells you almost nothing true about the creature itself. It is neither a vampire in any meaningful sense, nor truly a squid, nor an octopus, though it shares features with both. It belongs to its own quiet, singular branch of the family tree, a lineage that has remained largely unchanged for tens of millions of years, drifting through these same dark waters since long before most of the creatures we recognize on land had ever come into existence. It does not hunt, not in the way we might imagine hunting. It does not chase. It simply drifts through the water, trailing two long, thin filaments, collecting the soft, slow fall of organic debris that sinks endlessly down from the brighter layers far above us. The same gentle, eternal snowfall we will come to know more fully soon. When startled, it does not flee with any burst of speed. Instead, it wraps its webbed arms around itself, turning its dark cloak inside out, revealing small spines along the underside, transforming, in an instant, from something soft and drifting into something that looks, briefly, like a confusing tangle of points and shadow. It survives almost entirely in water so low in oxygen that almost nothing else can tolerate it at all. While other creatures avoid this particular band of the ocean, the vampire squid has made it home, finding safety in the very harshness that keeps many predators away. There is something worth resting on in that. Sometimes the safest place is simply the place too difficult for anything else to follow. Let it drift on, now, back into the dark from which it came. Further down and further out into the water around us, something else moves slowly into view. A fish unlike any you are likely to have imagined before tonight. Its body is small, dark, unremarkable at first glance. But its head is something else entirely. Beneath a dome of clear, transparent tissue, two pale green orbs sit, glowing faintly, angled upward toward whatever last whispers of light might still, even at this depth, occasionally drift down from far above. This is the barrel-eye fish, and what makes it so extraordinary is not simply that its head is transparent, though that alone is strange enough to sit with for a while. It is that its eyes, housed safely within that clear dome, are capable of rotating, swiveling slowly within the protective shield of its own skull, allowing the fish to look directly upward in search of the faintest possible silhouette of prey passing above it. And then, when the moment is right, to rotate forward again, tracking that same shape as the fish rises to meet it. Imagine carrying your own eyes inside a clear, protected window in your skull, able to turn and follow whatever interests you without ever needing to move your head at all. It is a strange kind of intimacy with one's own body, built entirely in response to a world with almost nothing left to see. And the barrel-eye fish has shaped itself, patiently, across countless generations, into something perfectly suited to finding what little there is. It moves on now into the dark above us, its pale eyes still turned upward, still watching, still patient, near the soft, settling floor of sediment far below us. Though we have not yet reached the true seafloor tonight, only its highest, faintest suggestion at this depth, something pale and segmented rests, almost entirely still, in the dark. It is called the giant isopod, and if you have ever seen a small woodlouse curled beneath a stone in some quiet garden, you have already seen in miniature the shape of this much larger and far more ancient cousin. Some giant isopods grow to the size of a large house cat, their hard, segmented shells curling protectively around them when disturbed, the way their tiny land-dwelling relatives have always done. What is most remarkable about the giant isopod is not its size, though that alone is striking enough in the deep, slow dark. It is its extraordinary patience. Food at this depth is scarce, falling only rarely, drifting down from the bright world above in small, unpredictable amounts. And so the giant isopod has adapted, over a very long evolutionary time, to simply wait. It is capable of surviving for years, genuine years. Between meals, its metabolism slowed to such an extraordinary degree that hunger, as we understand it, barely seems to apply to it at all. There is something deeply restful in imagining this. A creature so entirely at peace with scarcity that waiting itself has become its primary skill. No anxious searching, no desperate hunting, simply stillness, patient and complete, for as long as the dark requires it. It does not move as we drift past. It does not need to. It has perhaps all the time in this slow, dark world. One more creature waits for us before we continue deeper still tonight, and it may be the strangest of all. It approaches slowly through the black, and at first, very little about it seems remarkable. A long, dark, eel-like body, slender and unhurried. But then its mouth opens, and everything changes. The gulper eel's jaw unhinges far beyond anything its slender body would seem to allow, expanding into an enormous pouch-like structure, vastly larger than the eel's own head, capable of swallowing prey many times its own size. This is not cruelty. It is simply mathematics written into the body by necessity. In a world where a meal might not come again for a very long time, when the chance finally arrives, nothing can be wasted, nothing left for the dark to take back. And so the gulper eel carries with it, always, the means to seize whatever rare opportunity drifts within reach, however much larger than itself that opportunity might be. When its enormous mouth closes again, the eel returns, almost instantly, to its slender, unremarkable shape, drifting onward through the water as though nothing at all had just occurred. A quiet creature built around one extraordinary possibility, waiting patiently, most of the time, for very little to happen at all. We rest here a while longer, among these 4 quiet residents of the permanent night. The vampire squid, turning its dark cloak gently in the current. The barrel-eye fish, its pale eyes still watching the faint world above. The giant isopod, curled and still and entirely unhurried. The gulper eel, slender and patient, its enormous capability folded away until needed. None of them rush. None of them hurry toward us, or away from us, or toward anything at all. They drift and wait, and conserve what little energy this dark, cold world allows them, each one shaped, with extraordinary precision, around the simple, patient art of surviving somewhere that most living things could never survive at all. It is worth remembering, as we rest here with them, that every single one of these creatures has been living exactly this way, in exactly this darkness, for longer than any human being has ever known they existed at all. Their patience did not begin when we first saw them through the windows of a submersible. It was already old by then. It is older still now. The dark around us continues unbroken, in every direction. Somewhere nearby, a small light blinks once, briefly, and fades again into the black. We will rest here a little longer before continuing on. There is no need to hurry. Down here, there never has been. We pause here, at 3,000 meters, and for a while we will not look outward at all. Instead, let us simply look up. There is a particular kind of stillness that settles over a mind when it stops searching for the next thing to notice, and simply allows itself to watch one thing, slowly, for a long while. This is that kind of chapter. We have spent our time so far meeting the creatures of this dark water, drifting alongside them, learning the shapes of their patience. Now, for a moment, let us set the creatures aside and turn our attention instead to something quieter than any of them, something that has been falling, without pause, around every single one of them for as long as this ocean has existed at all. It is called marine snow. If you imagine for a moment standing in an open field as the first snow of winter begins to fall, not heavily, not in a storm, but softly, a few flakes drifting down here, a few more there, settling without urgency onto the ground below. You have already imagined something very close to what surrounds us here, suspended in this dark water. Except this snow does not begin in winter, and it does not end in spring. It has been falling continuously every single moment, since long before the first true winter ever existed on this planet. And it will continue falling in exactly this way, long after we have left this water and returned to our own quiet rooms tonight. Look up, if you can, into the column of water rising above us, back through the layers we have already passed, back through the midnight zone, back through the long twilight, back toward the last, fading edges of sunlight far above. Somewhere up there, in that bright, busy, living world, things are constantly dying, small things mostly. Fragments of plankton, their brief lives ended. Tiny pieces of shed skin and scales, and the soft, mucus-like houses that certain small creatures build and discard as they grow, no longer needed, drifting loose into the current. The waste of a billion small lives, all of it, eventually, beginning the same long, slow journey downward. This is marine snow, not water turned to ice, the way snow falls in the world above the surface, but organic matter, falling patiently through the entire height of the ocean, drawn down by gravity, exactly as gentle as the snow you might remember falling outside some quiet window long ago. And it falls so very slowly. A single particle of marine snow, depending on its size and shape, may take weeks to descend from the sunlit surface to the depth where we now rest. Some particles, smaller and more delicate, may take months. In the deepest parts of the ocean, where the water column stretches far beyond where we have traveled tonight, certain particles may take the better part of a year simply to complete their long, unhurried fall from the bright world above to the dark seafloor far below. Imagine that. A single fragment, no larger than a grain of sand, drifting downward for months on end, passing slowly through layer after layer of changing light and changing cold, watched by no one, hurried by nothing, simply following the quiet, patient pull of gravity all the way down. If you were here in person, holding a light in this water, you would see it everywhere around you. Small, pale flecks catching the beam, drifting past in every direction, like dust suspended in a shaft of afternoon sun. Except here there is no sun, and the drifting never stops, and it has been happening exactly this way for longer than there have been eyes anywhere to notice it at all. This soft, endless fall is not simply beautiful, although it is, in its own quiet way, one of the most beautiful things this ocean contains. It is also one of the most important processes occurring anywhere within it. Because in this dark water, far below the reach of sunlight, nothing can grow through photosynthesis. Nothing here can simply absorb light and turn it into food, the way the phytoplankton did so easily in the bright water far above us. And so almost everything living in this deep, dark world, every creature we have met so far, and every creature still waiting for us further down, depends, in some way, directly or indirectly, on this slow, continuous snowfall for its survival. The giant isopod, resting patiently on the soft floor of sediment below us, waits, in part, for marine snow to settle and gather into something larger and more substantial. The vampire squid, drifting through its low-oxygen sanctuary, trails its long filaments specifically to catch this falling debris as it passes, collecting it the way a hand might gather falling leaves. Even the larger predators of this dark water, the ones who hunt more actively, depend, in turn, on smaller creatures who themselves depend on this endless, gentle fall. It is, in a very real sense, the bridge between two worlds. The bright, photosynthetic world above, where the sun's energy is captured and turned into life, and this dark, hidden world below, which could not survive on its own, but which receives, every single day, a continuous gift of energy, carried down from a sun it will never see directly. There is something worth resting on in that thought, here in this quiet, falling water. The sun touches this place, after all, not directly, not as warmth or light or color, but indirectly, patiently, carried downward through months of slow and gentle falling, transformed along the way into something this dark world can use. A kind of generosity that asks for nothing in return and arrives without fail every single day, the way it always has, the way it always will. Scientists who study this process describe it as one of the most important mechanisms by which carbon moves through the entire planet. Each year, an enormous quantity of carbon, captured originally by phytoplankton near the sunlit surface, is carried downward through this same slow, continuous snowfall, eventually settling, in some cases permanently, into the deep sediment of the ocean floor. In this quiet, unhurried way, this falling snow plays a part in regulating the very climate of the entire Earth, locking away carbon that might otherwise remain in the atmosphere above, doing this work patiently, continuously, without any need for recognition or attention. It has been doing this work for the entire history of this ocean. It will continue doing this work long after tonight, long after any of us are here to notice it. Let us rest here a while longer, simply watching it fall. There is something deeply calming in observing a process, this constant, this unhurried, this entirely indifferent to time as we usually measure it. Up there, in the world you came from tonight, time moves quickly. Days fill themselves with motion and noise and the pressure of things needing to happen. Down here, none of that exists at all. There is only this slow, continuous, endless falling, each small particle taking its own unhurried path downward, asking nothing of anyone, needed by everyone, arriving exactly when it arrives and not a moment sooner. If you watch it long enough, it begins to feel less like falling and more like breathing. A slow exhale from the bright world above, breathed gently downward into this dark and patient one below. We will stay here a little longer, There is no need to move on yet. The snow will still be falling, exactly as it falls now, when we are ready to continue. It was falling before we arrived tonight. It will fall long after we are gone. It has never once stopped, not for a single moment, in the entire span of time this ocean has existed. Let it fall around us a while longer. Let your own thoughts settle, the way each small particle settles, slowly, gently, drawn downward without urgency, without resistance, simply following the quiet pull of something larger than itself. There is nowhere else this snow needs to be. There is nowhere else you need to be, either. Just here, for now, watching it fall. As we drift further from the surface with every quiet minute that passes, the world we carry within us, the memory of warm air and daylight, and the particular kind of weight the body feels when it is standing upright on solid ground, becomes something that belongs to a different order of experience entirely. Not lost, exactly, but held at such a distance that it begins to feel less like a place we came from, and more like a story we once heard about a place that someone else came from, long ago, in a brighter and considerably louder version of the world. The water around us, as we continue our slow descent past 3,000 meters and further still, has settled into a temperature and a stillness and a quality of dark so consistent that the very concepts of colder and deeper begin to lose their meaning as descriptions of change and become instead simply descriptions of a state, a permanent, undisturbed, ancient state that this water has maintained through the rise and fall of every civilization that has ever existed on the sunlit continents far above, and will maintain through every civilization that has not yet had the chance to begin. Let it stay distant. You are safe here. The water is still. The dark is soft and wide and endlessly patient, and there is nothing here that needs anything from you at all. We have crossed into the abyssal zone now, 4,000 meters below the surface, and still descending gently through water so cold and so dark and so undisturbed that the very molecules of it have slowed nearly to their quietest possible state, pressing close together in the cold, holding the silence the way thick stone walls hold silence completely, without effort, without end. And the seafloor here, when it finally comes into view, is not what you might have imagined. There are no jagged cliffs here, no sharp volcanic ridges cutting upward through the dark. The abyssal plain, stretching outward from where we rest to every direction further than any light we carry could possibly reach, maintains its undisturbed character with a completeness and a consistency that the surface world, with its tides and its seasons and its daily rhythm of light and dark, could never quite achieve. A stillness that is not the absence of time passing, but rather time passing in a way so gradual and so complete that the difference between one century and the next leaves almost no visible mark on the soft, pale sediment at our feet. And beneath our feet, if we were to lower ourselves gently, carefully, onto the floor of this dark plain, we would not feel rock. We would feel something much softer than that. The sediment of the abyssal plain is, in places, several kilometers thick. What you are resting on, if you were resting here, is the accumulated result of hundreds of millions of years of quiet falling. Every particle of marine snow we watched drifting downward in the last chapter, every tiny fragment of plankton, every shed scale, every microscopic piece of organic matter that ever sank from the bright world far above, eventually comes to rest somewhere on a floor very much like this one. And each layer, impossibly thin, laid gently over the one before it, decade by decade, century by century, has built this soft and ancient surface into something as fine and as deep and as undisturbed as anything you will ever encounter anywhere on this planet. The layer of sediment directly beneath you, in this particular spot, was laid down when dinosaurs still walked the continents above. The layer beneath that is older still, and deeper and deeper and deeper still. all the way down through geological time. Each layer a whispered record of something that once lived in the bright water far above, fell slowly downward, and came to rest at last in this same soft and patient dark. It has been accumulating here for so long and so gently that in many places on the abyssal plain, a footprint pressed into this sediment would remain perfectly visible, undisturbed, for centuries. Let that thought settle, gently, like a particle of snow drifting down through still water. Centuries, and nothing to disturb it. And yet this vast, still desert is not empty. Look very carefully, a little further ahead through the dark. The tripod fish has arrived through a very long and unhurried evolutionary process, at a way of living that requires almost nothing of the water around it, and asks almost nothing of itself. Standing with such extraordinary stillness on the soft sediment that the mud immediately surrounding its three extended fins shows not a single trace of disturbance, as though the fish has been here long enough that the plain has simply incorporated its presence the way it incorporates everything else that settles into it, quietly, without objection, adding it to the undisturbed record of whatever has come to rest in this place. Three long extensions of its fins, delicate, feather-light, extraordinarily sensitive, reach downward from its body and press, with the gentlest possible pressure, into the soft mud below. They elevate the fish just slightly above the sediment, holding it poised there in the dark water, angled very softly into whatever faint current moves through this deep and quiet place. The tripod fish does not turn its head to follow the current. It does not adjust its position, or test new angles, or try a different spot. It simply stands, facing the flow, and allows the water to bring whatever the water chooses to bring, taking what arrives and releasing what does not, with a completeness of patience that is almost meditative to simply observe. Its eyes, in the total darkness of this plain, have become largely unnecessary, and over a very long stretch of evolutionary time, the tripod fish has accordingly reduced them. Small, simple, suited to detecting the faintest possible change in light, rather than forming any detailed image of a world that offers so very little to see. What it has developed instead, with extraordinary sensitivity, is an awareness of pressure and movement in the water immediately around it. The faint current carries the equally faint movements of small creatures drifting within it, tiny organisms, pieces of marine snow, the slow settling of organic matter from far above. And when something drifts close enough, the tripod fish responds, briefly, with the minimum movement necessary, before settling once more into its long, quiet stillness. There is something extraordinarily peaceful about watching a creature that has reduced its entire existence to this. No restlessness, no searching, no urgency of any kind, simply standing, in the dark, in the cold, on the soft mud of the abyssal plain, allowing the quiet current of an ancient ocean to bring whatever it brings. Further along the plain, in every direction the eye can reach through the darkness, something else is moving. Moving is perhaps too strong a word, drifting perhaps, or simply being in a slightly different place than they were a while ago, with no particular awareness on anyone's part of when or how the change occurred. Sea cucumbers, thousands upon thousands of them, spread across the abyssal mud in slow, wandering herds that cover more ground than many of the forests we know on land, though they cover it with a quietness and a gentleness that no forest could quite match. Their bodies are pale, some nearly transparent, some a soft, dusty white, or the gentlest possible pink. And the sea cucumbers move across the abyssal plain at a pace so unhurried that watching any single one of them for several minutes produces no reliable sense of progress in any particular direction. And yet they have been traveling this same soft sediment for longer than most of the species we recognize on land have existed, covering distances that accumulate over the span of their long and patient lives, into something considerable. A life spent in motion so gentle, it is almost indistinguishable from stillness, sustained entirely by the same slow, continuous falling of marine snow that has been drifting down through all the layers of this ocean since long before the first of them was born. Each sea cucumber moves with its mouth pressed gently to the surface of the sediment, extending soft, feathery tentacles outward with rhythmic, deliberate patience, gathering the fine organic matter settled there. The marine snow we watched falling so gently through the water above us, now resting on the plain, now being gathered, softly and completely, and passed through these long, slow, patient bodies, and returned to the sediment in a slightly different form, a little further along the plain, enriched and transformed. This is the abyss's own quiet form of renewal. No sunlight here, no photosynthesis, no burst of growth or sudden abundance. Only this slow, continuous, ancient cycling, the material of distant, long-dead plankton, fallen through thousands of meters of dark water over many months, gathered by a creature moving so slowly it barely seems to move at all, processed and returned, gently, to the plane from which it came. The sea cucumbers do not hurry. They have never hurried. The plain is wide, and the snow continues to fall, and there is always more sediment ahead, and the dark is patient, and so are they. And now, drifting gently forward through the dark, we approach something that changes the plain around it entirely. You may have noticed it before the light revealed its shape. A subtle difference in the water here, something the body senses before the eye can name it. A slight richness in the cold and quiet, a gathering of gentle movement, where a moment before there was none. The whale has descended through all the same layers of water that we have traveled through tonight, drifting downward over the span of several slow days from the sunlit surface where it drew its last breath, passing through the fading blue of the twilight zone and the absolute dark of the midnight zone, and all the cold and pressure of the deep ocean above us, until gravity and patience and the long, unhurried cooperation of the water around it finally brought it to rest here, in the softest possible sediment, on the floor of the abyssal plain, where it will remain for longer than any single living creature currently alive on the surface of this earth will live to see. Scientists call this a whale fall, and in the language of the deep ocean, it is the closest thing this vast, dark, resource-scarce world ever comes to a celebration. In the hours after the whale settles onto the plain, the first visitors arrive, drifting in through the darkness from great distances, drawn by the faintest possible traces of something rich and nourishing carried through the water by the gentle currents of this deep place. They do not rush, even now. Nothing in this world rushes, but they come and they gather, and slowly, patiently, over months and then years and then decades, this single whale provides for an entire community of life that would not otherwise exist in this place at all. The process unfolds in long, slow stages, each one gentler and quieter than the last. First, the soft tissues are visited by mobile creatures of the plain, drifting in from across the wide sediment, drawn by something the water carries to them. Over many months, they take what they need, unhurried, and depart, and others come in their place. Then, as the whale settles deeper into the sediment, communities of organisms begin to make their home within the bones themselves. Specialized creatures that exist, in some cases, nowhere else on Earth but on whale falls like this one, having evolved over the long span of deep evolutionary time to inhabit exactly and only these rare, soft, nourishing structures, appearing from wherever they wait in the dark between whale falls. When a new one arrives, from distances we cannot yet fully explain. And finally, in the longest and last stage, which can persist for decades, long past when any visible remains suggest that nourishment continues, bacteria colonize the whale's bones themselves, drawing the last slow energy from the fats preserved deep within the structure, and in doing so, creating a chemical environment from which yet more specialized organisms draw their own sustenance, an entire community sustained by the last patient offerings of a single life that ended far above. A whale fall can sustain a localized ecosystem in this barren and patient desert for 40, 50, sometimes over 100 years. We drift slowly away from the whale fall now, back across the wide, still, undisturbed sediment of the abyssal plain. The tripod fish is still standing where we left it, facing its quiet current. The sea cucumbers are still moving so slowly in every direction across the soft mud. Even here, at 4,000 meters below a surface that has never been less than a rumor to anything living on this plane, the marine snow continues its slow and patient descent through all the dark and cold above, each particle carrying within it some trace of the bright, photosynthetic world it departed weeks or months ago, still traveling, still unhurried, still following the same quiet gravitational pull that has been guiding the same journey downward for as long as this ocean has had a floor to receive it. The plain stretches on, wide, still, dark, ancient, and deeply, completely, unhurriedly at rest, as you are now. Somewhere in the soft dark around us, a single particle of marine snow settles into the sediment, and then there is only stillness, and the deep, patient dark, and the quiet that has always been here, and always will be. You have come a long way tonight, further perhaps than any part of you quite realized, drifting through the layers of this ancient, quiet ocean, moving slowly downward through warmth, and then through fading color, and then through the long, soft dark of the midnight zone, and through the still and patient abyssal plain. And now, without any rush, without any urgency at all, we have arrived somewhere very few things have ever arrived. The world above you, your room, your bed, the quiet sounds of whatever night surrounds you right now, is 6,000 meters away. That is not a distance measured in minutes or hours of travel. It is a distance measured in pressure and cold and darkness so complete and so ancient that the mind at rest can barely hold it without it dissolving into something softer, something closer to a feeling than a fact. Let it dissolve then. Let it simply become the feeling of going very, very deep. And resting there, we have entered the Hadal Zone. The word comes from the ancient Greek name for the world beneath the world, a place imagined long ago as somewhere lying below everything else that existed, deeper than any root, darker than any night, utterly beyond the reach of the ordinary world above it. And in the ocean at least, that ancient imagining turns out to be almost exactly correct. The Hadal Zone begins at roughly 6,000 meters, where the abyssal plain gives way to something different. A series of long, narrow valleys pressed into the floor of the ocean, where the great tectonic plates of the Earth's crust meet, and one slides beneath the other, drawing the seafloor downward into channels so deep, and so slender, and so quiet, that they have existed largely undisturbed for longer than most of the mountains on land have stood. These are the ocean trenches, and the deepest of them all, the place where the floor of the sea descends further than anywhere else on this entire planet, lies in the Western Pacific, east of a chain of small and quiet islands, in a valley pressed into the ocean floor that stretches nearly 2,000 kilometers in length, and plunges at its deepest point to just over 11,000 meters below the surface of the sea. It is called the Mariana Trench, and at its deepest point, a small specific hollow at the southern end of the trench, measured and named by the first ship ever to take a sounding of this extraordinary depth. The ocean floor sits 11,034 meters below the world above, 11 kilometers. Pressed into the cold and the dark and the silence beneath the rest of the ocean. If you were to carry the tallest mountain on Earth, root and all, and lower it into the Challenger Deep, Its summit would rest more than 2 kilometers beneath the surface of the sea above it. And even there, at the very bottom of the deepest place on Earth, the water is not empty. The sediment here, at the very bottom of the deepest trench on Earth, is extraordinarily soft. Softer, in some places, than the sediment of the abyssal plain above us, because the trenches act as natural collecting points, gathering the gentle fall of marine snow that we watched drifting downward in our earlier chapter, channeling it slowly into these long, narrow valleys over millions of years, until the floor of the trench is covered in something as fine and as yielding as the softest possible dust. The pressure here is more than 1,000 times the pressure at the surface of the sea. This is a number that the mind reaches for and then releases, because it cannot quite be grasped in any ordinary way. 1,000 times. Not heavier, exactly, because pressure in water surrounds you from every direction equally, pressing inward from all sides at once, leaving no single angle unaccounted for. Creatures here are not crushed by it the way we would be. They are simply built for it, shaped by it, filled with it, as naturally and completely as you are filled with the ordinary air pressure of the world you came from tonight. Pressure, to the creatures of the Hadal Zone, is simply how the world has always felt. It is the lightness of the surface that would be incomprehensible to them. The warmth, the brightness, all of it beyond understanding. In 1960, 2 people descended into the Challenger Deep for the first time. Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, aboard a small, thick-walled vessel called the Trieste, spent nearly 5 hours descending through all the same layers of water we have traveled through together tonight, and then rested, briefly, on the floor of the deepest place on Earth. Through a small circular porthole of extraordinarily thick glass, they looked out into the absolute dark of the Hadal Zone, and they saw a flatfish, resting calmly on the pale sediment below them, as though the arrival of a vessel from the surface world was not particularly noteworthy, not particularly unusual, simply another thing that had happened, quietly, on an otherwise undisturbed day in the deepest place on Earth. The fish did not appear concerned. The fish did not appear to be anything other than exactly what it was. A creature resting, in the dark, at the bottom of the world, entirely at home, in a place that the 2 people looking at it could barely survive, even in their protective vessel. They remained on the floor of the Challenger Deep for approximately 20 minutes. Then they ascended, slowly, back through all the dark and all the weight and all the cold, back up through the layers of this great ocean, back toward the surface, and the light, and the ordinary world above. The flatfish, presumably, remained exactly where it was. And it is not only the flatfish that has made a home in this deepest of places. Drifting slowly across the pale sediment around us now, moving with a careful, rhythmic, unhurried motion, are small crustaceans that scientists call amphipods, creatures distantly related to the small shrimp-like organisms of the surface world far above, but shaped by the Hadal Zone into something uniquely suited to this particular depth. They are not large. They would rest comfortably in the palm of an open hand, and yet they are among the most numerous multicellular creatures in the Hadal Zone, moving across the sediment in numbers that, in places, gather into slow, drifting congregations, drawn by the same slow-falling nourishment from above that sustains almost everything in this deep and patient world. What is most remarkable about Hadal amphipods is what researchers have discovered within their bodies, something that points to just how connected this deepest of places is to the surface world far above, despite all the pressure and darkness and cold that separates them. Within the bodies of amphipods collected from the Hadal Zone, scientists have found organic compounds that could only have originated in the open ocean above. The remnants of creatures that lived far above in the sunlit surface water and whose remains eventually fell, slowly and gently, through all those kilometers of dark water, carrying within them traces of a world the amphipods will never visit and will never know. The surface nourishes the deep, even here, even at 11,000 meters, even in the darkest place on Earth. The soft, patient gift of marine snow reaches all the way to the bottom of the world. And somewhere drifting through the dark water of the Challenger Deep is a small pale fish, a snailfish, the deepest fish ever recorded on this entire planet, filmed for the first time at a depth of more than 8,000 meters. Moving slowly through the dark water of the trench, its soft, gelatinous body held together, not by a rigid skeleton, but by a more flexible internal structure, designed precisely for a world where the pressure from the water above would dissolve the gas-filled chambers that keep surface fish afloat. The snailfish has simply removed those chambers, has simply built itself differently, softer, more yielding, more at peace with the weight of the world pressing in around it from every direction. And it drifts quietly through the deepest water on Earth, looking with small and gentle eyes for whatever the dark happens to offer. The trench is very still tonight. It is always still. It has always been still. The sediment holds the shape of everything that has ever settled into it and releases nothing. Somewhere above us, the marine snow is still falling, taking its time, drifting through all the layers we have traveled through tonight, finding its way slowly. Here, the pressure holds everything gently. The cold holds everything gently. The dark holds everything gently. You are 11 kilometers below the surface of the sea. There is nothing here that needs your attention. There is nothing here at all. Only the sediment, and the stillness, and the slow, patient dark. And somewhere far above you now, the surface of the ocean moves in long, quiet swells. The stars are out. The night is soft. And down here at the very bottom of the world, everything is exactly as it has always been. Quiet, undisturbed, ancient, at rest. Your day is behind you now. Whatever filled it, however it felt, it belongs to somewhere else entirely, to a brighter, louder, busier world that has no place down here. Down here, there is only the quiet, and the cold, and the dark, which is not an absence of anything, but a presence of its own, soft and wide and ancient, and entirely willing to hold you for as long as you need to be held. You have already come so far tonight, through the warm, sunlit surface where the phytoplankton drift and the blue whales breathe in long, unhurried arcs, through the fading twilight where the hatchetfish mirror the last traces of blue on their silvery flanks, through the midnight zone where the anglerfish hangs its soft and patient light in the absolute dark, through the abyssal plain where sea cucumbers drift in slow, wandering herds across sediment laid down before the first dinosaur ever walked on dry land, through the fire of the hydrothermal vents where life found its own source of warmth in a world the sun had never touched. You have descended through the whole of this ancient ocean, layer by patient layer. And now, without hurry, without any urgency at all, we are going somewhere very few things have ever gone. Allow your body to settle a little more deeply into wherever it rests tonight. Allow the weight of your shoulders to release, just slightly, the way a stone releases its heat into the cool ground around it, gradually, quietly, without deciding to. Allow your breathing to slow to whatever pace feels most natural, most unhurried, most entirely your own. We are going to the deepest place on Earth, and it is more peaceful there than you might imagine. Somewhere in the western Pacific Ocean, a long, narrow valley has been pressed into the floor of the sea by the slow, steady movement of the Earth's crust over a span of time so vast that the human mind can approach it only gently, the way you might approach something very large in the dark, carefully, without trying to see all of it at once. It is called the Mariana Trench, and at its furthest, deepest, most undisturbed point, A small, quiet hollow at the trench's southern end, sounded first by a ship called the Challenger in 1875, and measured and remeasured many times since. The ocean floor descends to 11,034 meters below the surface of the sea. This is the Challenger Deep, the deepest place on this entire planet, and we are drifting there now, slowly, through water that grows colder and stiller and more completely dark with every gentle meter of our descent. The way the mind itself grows cooler and stiller and more deeply dark as it drifts toward the edge of sleep, not losing anything, simply releasing the bright and the busy, settling into something slower and wider and far more ancient than any single thought. The trench narrows gently around us as we descend, not claustrophobically, not with any sense of pressure or urgency, simply narrowing, the way a valley narrows between two long, gentle slopes, the walls of ancient seafloor rising on either side, their surfaces draped in the softest possible pale sediment, undisturbed, as fine and weightless as the gentlest dust. No current reaches the very deepest parts of this trench with any strength. The water here moves, if it can be said to move at all, only in the slowest, most imperceptible of drifts, a gentle circulation that takes centuries to complete a single cycle, unhurried in the way that only truly ancient things can afford to be unhurried. And yet it is not empty. It has never been empty. At these depths, where the pressure of the water pressing in from every direction exceeds 1,000 times the pressure of the ordinary air above the surface of the sea, life has found its way, not despite the conditions, but through them, shaped them, over a very long and patient span of evolutionary time, into forms precisely calibrated for exactly this place, and no other. The creatures of the Challenger Deep have never known warmth. They have never known light. They have never known the gentle rocking of surface waves, or the feel of sunlight moving across water, or the sound of any wind. What they have always known is this: the cold which is just above freezing and has been just above freezing for longer than most species on land have existed. The pressure which presses softly and completely from every direction, filling every space, touching every surface, present and constant and entirely unremarkable to any body built to exist within it. And the dark, which is not threatening here, not ominous, not something to be navigated carefully, simply the natural, undisturbed state of a world that has always been this way, and is entirely comfortable being so. One of the most numerous creatures drifting through the pale and quiet water of the Challenger Deep is so small it would rest easily in the curve of a teaspoon. It is called an amphipod. It is pale, almost translucent, its small curved body moving through the dark water in slow rhythmic pulses, drifting downward and then gently upward, its long, fine antennae trailing softly behind it through the cold. Amphipods gather in the deepest parts of the trench in numbers that would be difficult to fully imagine, drawn here by the gentle, continuous nourishment of marine snow, that ancient and patient snowfall that we watched drifting down from the bright surface world through all the layers of our journey tonight, eventually reaching even here, even at the very bottom of the world, settling into the pale soft sediment of the trench floor and providing, in its quiet and unhurried way, the foundation for all the life that calls this deepest place home. And here too, drifting through the dark water with a gentleness that seems almost deliberate, moves one of the most soft-bodied creatures in the entire deep ocean, the Dumbo octopus, named, with a kind of quiet affection, for the two large, ear-like fins that extend from its mantle and move in slow, rhythmic pulses to carry it through the water. Not quickly, never quickly, but with a steady, unhurried grace that makes it look less like something swimming and more like something drifting, carried gently along by some invisible, benevolent current. Its body is soft, its movements are soft. Everything about it is soft, pliable, yielding. A body built not for rigidity against the pressure of these depths, but for accommodation, for accepting the weight of the world above it, with the same quiet ease that a deep and restful sleep accepts the weight of a tired mind. It drifts onward through the dark, its fins moving in their gentle, patient rhythm. The sediment of the current would not smooth it. Nothing would disturb it. It would simply remain, patient and still, exactly as it was. Waiting. In the year 1960, two men descended into the Challenger Deep for the first time. They sat inside a small, thick-walled vessel called the Trieste, and they traveled downward through all the layers of this great ocean, just as we have traveled tonight, moving slowly through the sunlit water and the twilight and the midnight zone and the abyssal plain. And finally, after nearly 5 hours of descent, they came to rest, gently, on the floor of the deepest place on Earth. Through a small, thick porthole of glass, they looked out into the absolute dark, and they turned on a light. And in that light, resting on the pale sediment directly below them, was a flatfish, not fleeing, not disturbed, simply resting there, in the dark, at the bottom of the world, as though the arrival of two human beings in a small metal vessel from a surface world 11 kilometers above was simply one more quiet thing that had happened on an otherwise undisturbed day. They stayed for 20 minutes. Then they rose, slowly, back through all the dark and all the cold and all the immeasurable weight of water above, back toward the surface and the light and the world they had come from. The flatfish, in all likelihood, did not move. The trench is very quiet tonight. The sediment is undisturbed. The pale amphipods drift in slow, rhythmic arcs through water so cold and so still that time itself seems to move differently here. The Dumbo octopus continues its gentle, pulsing journey through the absolute dark, and somewhere in the very deepest hollow of the Challenger Deep, the marine snow drifts downward, still falling, as it has always been falling, settling into the pale sediment, softly, without urgency, adding one more thin and weightless layer to a floor built from hundreds of millions of years of the same slow, patient gift from the bright world far above. The pressure holds everything gently. The cold holds everything gently. The dark holds everything gently. You are at the deepest place on Earth. There is nothing here that needs your attention. Nothing here that asks anything of you. Only the quiet, the soft, ancient, undisturbed quiet, and the snow still falling the way it always falls, gently, without stopping, without hurry, into the dark. You have been somewhere very few things have ever been. Not just in depth, though the depth has been real, and the dark has been real, and the cold pressing gently from every direction has been as real as anything this ancient ocean has ever held, but somewhere deeper than that too, somewhere quieter, the kind of place the mind can only reach when the day has fully released its hold, and the body has settled completely into wherever it rests, and there is nothing left to do but allow the night to carry the rest of it forward without you. You have been somewhere your waking mind rarely allows you to go. And now, without any rush, without any urgency at all, we begin the long and gentle return. Not quickly, never quickly. The ocean asks nothing of us in terms of speed, and we ask nothing of it. We simply allow ourselves to rise. The way a breath released from the lungs rises softly through still water, unhurried, tracing the same column of dark and cold and gradually warming blue through which we descended together hours ago at the beginning of this long and quiet night. We leave the Challenger Deep as we found it, undisturbed, ancient, patient in its darkness, as it has always been patient, as it will continue being patient, long after tonight has become another layer of memory too soft and faded to properly name. The pale sediment of the Haddle floor recedes below us, slowly, the way a familiar landscape recedes through the window of a moving train, not lost, simply growing distant, becoming softer at the edges, taking on the quality of something remembered rather than something directly seen. The Dumbo octopus is still out there, Somewhere in the deep water below us, its gentle fins still moving in their slow and patient rhythm. The amphipods are still drifting through the trench in their quiet, translucent multitudes, carried softly through cold water by the same imperceptible current that has carried them, and their ancestors, through this same dark for longer than any name for any living thing has existed on land. We rise through 6,000 meters, and the dark, which has been our companion for so long now, begins to hold itself a little differently around us. Not lighter yet, we are still far too deep for that, but somehow wider, as though the column of water above us has begun to breathe gently in anticipation of something. We pass through the abyssal plain on our way upward, drifting over the same vast, soft, undisturbed landscape of ancient sediment we rested in before. And somewhere below us, in that quiet dark, a tripod fish is still standing in its patient stillness, facing the faint current, waiting for whatever the water chooses to bring it. It will still be standing there tomorrow. It will still be standing there long after tomorrow has become something too distant to imagine. The sea cucumbers are still moving in their slow and wandering herds across the soft floor of the plain, their delicate tentacles still sweeping gently through sediment that has been waiting patiently to be gathered and passed through and returned for as long as this ocean has had a floor to settle into. And the marine snow is still falling. It is always falling. It fell through the entire length of our descent, silently, alongside us, each particle drifting at its own unhurried pace, asking nothing of the water around it, requiring nothing of the dark, simply following the gentle, ancient pull of gravity all the way from the bright surface, far above down to wherever the floor chose to receive it. It fell while we rested at 3,000 meters, watching it drift past in the beam of our imagined light. It fell while we sat with the vampire squid and the barrel-eye fish and the patient giant isopod. It is falling now, all around us, as we rise. It will continue falling long after we have returned to the surface, long after this night is over, long after any of us are here to watch it settle. At 4,000 meters, rising now through the lower reaches of the midnight zone, the darkness around us has not changed. It remains as complete, as softly absolute, as it was at the very bottom of our descent. And yet something in the quality of it feels different. Not because anything has changed in the water itself, but because we know, now, what lies both below us and above us. And the knowledge of both changes how the dark between them feels. We know what is below us, the ancient sediment, the patient stillness, the slow, wandering herds, the fire of the hydrothermal vents, that extraordinary discovery of life sustaining itself through chemistry rather than sunlight, living proof that the rules of biology are more generous than any single mind ever imagined before 1977. And we know what is above us. The last fading blue of the twilight zone, the silvery hatchetfish mirroring the sky above it, the lanternfish scattered through the fading light in their millions, each one carrying its own small constellation of soft, quiet glow. And higher still, the sunlit surface, where the phytoplankton drift in their uncountable billions, turning light into oxygen, sustaining every breath that every breathing creature on land draws in and releases without thinking. Between what is below us and what is above us, the entire story of this ocean is held. All of it, still here, still quietly, patiently continuing. We pass through 2,000 meters, through 1,500. The darkness around us, still absolute, carries within it, here and there, the soft and widely spaced pulse of bioluminescent light. A brief glow, a slow fade, another brief glow somewhere further off, the way the embers of a dying fire pulse softly in the dark of a quiet room, each one a small, warm, wordless signal in the surrounding stillness. The creatures of the midnight zone drift past us, unhurried, indifferent our passage in the way that all truly ancient things are indifferent. Not unkindly, not coldly, but simply because they have been here so much longer, and they will be here so much longer still. And our presence, however quiet, is simply one small and temporary thing in a world defined entirely by permanence. The anglerfish asserts its patient light somewhere nearby, suspended in the dark, waiting. It has been waiting. It will continue waiting. This is simply what it does. 1,000 meters. And then gradually, something shifts. Not dramatically, not with any announcement. Simply a softening of the black around us. The very faintest suggestion of the deepest, darkest possible blue beginning to gather imperceptibly at the very edges of the dark. We have crossed back into the twilight zone. And here, rising now, as the blue around us very gradually, very slowly deepens and warms with every gentle meter of our ascent, we pass once more through the long and quiet realm of the hatchetfish and the lanternfish and the siphonophore, that long, drifting, ghostly colonial creature stretching through the blue like a pale and patient thread, each one of its thousands of small component selves performing its one specific task, all of them together, forming something that neither instinct nor imagination quite prepared us for the first time we encountered it. It is still here, still drifting, as quietly and as completely as ever. The blue deepens further around us, not brightly yet, not even close to what we would call light in any ordinary sense, but blue, genuinely, unmistakably blue, the color that holds on longest, the color that refuses to disappear, the color that carries itself furthest into the dark before finally, gently, surrendering to it. And then, drifting upward through 200 meters, through 150, something extraordinary begins to happen. Red, the faintest, softest, most tentative suggestion of red, filtered and thinned to almost nothing by the water above us, returns to the world around us, a color so long absent from our journey that its reappearance feels, for a moment, almost unbelievable, almost too warm, too full of the surface world's particular quality of light after so many hours spent in a world that had let go of it entirely. And then orange, even softer, and then yellow, lingering and pale and tentative, as though still uncertain of its welcome at this depth. And then, as we drift upward through 50 meters, through 30, through 20, the full and extraordinary richness of surface light returns all at once. White and warm and present, and surrounding us completely, the way waking sometimes arrives. Not in a flash, not suddenly, but gradually, the way color returns to a room as dawn very slowly gathers on the other side of the curtains. We have returned to the surface. The ocean here is warm. The waves move in long, slow, unhurried swells above us, and the light, where the moon or stars are reflected in them, scatters across the surface in small, drifting patches that come and go with the gentle rhythm of the water's movement. Somewhere in this surface world, a blue whale is breathing, rising in its long, slow arc, breaking the surface with a soft, quiet exhale before descending again, in no particular hurry into the blue below. The phytoplankton are drifting. They are always drifting. They have been drifting since long before this particular night began, and they will drift on through every other night that follows, doing their quiet, invisible, essential work in the sunlit water, turning light into oxygen, sustaining everything, asking nothing in return, and the marine snow is falling. Even here, at the surface, the process has already begun. The smallest fragments of the smallest organisms beginning their long, unhurried journey downward, the same journey we made tonight, past the twilight and the midnight zone, past the abyssal plain, past the hydrothermal vents, past the creatures of permanent night, down and further still, toward the deepest sediment of the deepest trench, where everything eventually, in its own time, at its own pace, comes quietly to rest. The ocean continues tonight without us. It was continuing long before we arrived, and it will continue long after, in exactly this same patient and unhurried way. its creatures going about their ancient and extraordinary lives in the dark, in the cold, in the soft pressure of all that water pressing gently from every direction. The tripod fish is standing still on the abyssal plain. The vampire squid is drifting, dark-cloaked, through its quiet, low-oxygen sanctuary. The lanternfish are glowing softly in the deep blue of the twilight zone. And far below all of them, at the very bottom of the world, in the pale and undisturbed sediment of the Challenger Deep, the amphipods are drifting in their slow and translucent multitudes through water that has not been warmed by sunlight since the ocean first formed. Everything is continuing. Everything is quietly, patiently, unhurriedly continuing, just as it always has, just as it always will. The night around you is soft. The dark, wherever you are resting now, is the surface world's own gentle version of the darkness we have spent this long night within, closer, warmer, held by walls rather than water, but carrying within it the same quality of permission that the deep ocean has always offered to anything willing to surrender to it. You do not need to hold on to any of it, not the names, not the depths, not the creatures or the pressures or the extraordinary ancient, patient facts of this world that exists entirely beneath the surface of the sea. Let it all drift, the way marine snow drifts, softly, without urgency, following the quiet pull of something larger and more patient than any single thought. The ocean is still there. It has always been there, beneath whatever ground you rest on tonight, connected through rivers and rain, and the slow, ancient movement of water through the deep rock of the earth itself. The ocean is continuing its quiet and unhurried work. The marine snow is falling. The creatures of permanent night are drifting through the dark. The abyssal plain is undisturbed. The Challenger Deep is holding its extraordinary stillness, as it always holds it, as it will always hold it, long past tonight, long past any tonight we could imagine together. And you are here, resting, held gently by the quiet, drifting, the way everything eventually drifts, softly, without resistance, into the dark.